Hello everyone, I'm Firefly Fi and or Blackberry Ghost, and let's get back in to the second devlog of my very small Metroidvania project, Herbalist. Okay, so let's start off strong by talking about one of the most important features in many Metroidvanias, especially ones that have to do with exploring and platforming, those being movement abilities. Now, since this is a small Metroidvania, I didn't really think I would need that many, so I had a list of a few, like 6 or 7, and I narrowed it down to just 3. So, in order from most boring to least boring, here they are. First, simply a double jump. If you don't know what a double jump is, then I'm disappointed. Moving on. A bit more uncommonly used is a gliding mechanic, where if you, well, hold the glide button, you fall slower. This could have some interactions if I choose to add wind, but again, this is a small project, just so that I can actually learn Unity. So, I don't know if I'm going to be doing this one. And finally, the most unique one of all, so unique that I need 3 frames of drawing to explain it, is the Fastfall Bounce thingy. I'll come up with a better name, don't worry. But, basically, you fall fast. If you fall fast into an enemy, you bounce off of the enemy. The depiction of that enemy is very accurate. Maybe to other games, but like, I guess I'm not going to be using this enemy in the game. Sorry, little red blob. Uh, so, I actually already drew up the sprites for it, so let's just put them into the game, animate them, and see how it looks. Alright, so I did the thing that I said I would do, and now we have 3 different movement abilities. A double jump with some nice little frames to indicate that it is a double jump. We have a soaring mechanic, which works a bit differently to most other soaring mechanics that you've seen, which I'll explain later. And then we also have the fastfall. Note that there are no enemies yet, so for now, the fastfall is purely cosmetic. But look, the hat, it goes off. If you can't see it very well, then too bad. But the hat, it can't stay on the character's head because they're falling too fast. Yeah. Before we move on, I just kind of want to get camera movement out of the way real quickly. So, how about I implement that really quickly? Shouldn't be too hard, right? Hey, for once I'm actually correct. It wasn't hard at all. Now, if we press play, we can see that the camera... Wait, what? Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, now it works. Oh, and the level... Yeah, I should probably have warned you beforehand. It looks a lot more ugly than when it's just one screen. But hey, we've got camera movement now. So our little protagonist can be the source of in the middle of the screen all the time. One thing that I want to touch on real quickly is the way that the soar mechanic works. So in most games, you can actually soar more than once in midair, or in most games, it's actually called glide. Here, it's a little different. But, and other features. But no, in this game, you only have one use of glide or soar in midair, and you can't use it again. You can double jump while gliding and just give yourself a small boost. But the biggest thing about it, I guess, is that whatever X velocity that you start the glide with, you're locked into it. I am... Yep. And also... Oh yeah, one funny thing that I like to do is walk off this corner with the up arrow held and make a graceful descent. It's beautiful. I love it. It's beautiful. Alright, so the next thing that I want to accomplish here is having a player that can attack. We're only going to implement one of the 2 main attacks that the player is going to have, which the first of which is using a small little lantern to shoot a projectile with projectile has some special capabilities and stuff that we'll look at once I actually get it implemented. I'm going to do the art, and then there are two ways to do projectiles in Unity, which I will explain now. So from the bits and pieces of research that I've done, there are two ways to do this kind of thing in Unity, just like there's two ways to do it in Scratch. The first of which is instantiating, or as anyone who's used Scratch before, cloning. We just have like one master game object or master sprite, and then whenever we need another bullet, we just pop, 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 create a copy of it. And this works ridiculously well in Scratch. There is a 300 clone limit, but most games have certain workarounds to this to minimize all the lag and stuff. It is generally better for Scratch, especially because using the same code over and over for multiple objects makes the JSON limit go haywire. But in Unity, apparently it's better to use something called object pooling, which here I have a pool of, say, 9 objects. And if I want to make a bullet, I just show one of them. So apparently this is actually the better approach, because clones in Scratch are a lot better than clones in Unity. Again, the Unity engine fails. Scratch is clearly superior. But anyway, basically, you can just write one script of code and then attach it to every single one of the sprites or game objects that you need. So instead of having the same code taking up 9 times the amount of space that it would when you're using Scratch, in Unity you just have that code written out once and then all the sprites reference it. I hope that makes sense. It sounds a bit confusing even to me, but if you have questions, then ask in the comments or just look it up yourself, because I should not be trusted with these things. I only did like 20 minutes of research. But I think that I'm going to use object pooling, which is apparently a better choice, especially since a few of the enemies that I'm thinking of adding are a bit bullet spammy. So yeah, let's get into that. So I haven't actually put in the blast itself yet, but I have put in all the animations, and also a few special features of them, you could say. There's one for attacking on the ground, which pushes you backwards slightly. There's one for attacking upwards, which doesn't push you backwards, but the air attack pushes you backwards quite a big amount. And that's actually going to be useful for some harder platforming if there's going to be like ridiculous parkour levels. If I just put like a secret level, kind of like the Path of Pain in Hollow Knight or something. You can't make this kind of jump, but if you time a lantern blast turnaround correctly, then you can. It's kind of hard to do though. Okay, basically that's the proof of concept. If I started soaring just a little bit earlier, I probably would have gotten that. But 60 frames per second, so frame perfect inputs are not easy. Other than that, I also added toggles for the abilities. So I can go over to here. You probably can't see all of it, but there's glide unlock, and I can check the box for glide unlock. There's an unlock for Fastfall, which I can check the box for, and there's max jumps, which I can change between 1 and 2. So no double jump or yes double jump, and it's going to show you the normal state of the player without any abilities. And yeah, no double jump, no soaring, no fast falling. If this is how you start the game, then you're not going to be super powerful. You still have the lantern though. That's something that you'll have with you from the start of the game. Alright. I'll see you once I actually implement the projectiles then. Things are going pretty good, though.
The player object. To make this object easily distinguishable, let's select it, press this button in the top right corner, and select an icon for it. Now that you can see it, easily drag it around until it's positioned in front of the player. It's very important not to place it too close to the player, otherwise our fireballs will just hit the player, and we don't want that. You can...
Ha, ha, ha. I did something correctly. I did something good because my code has an advantage over your code because I did it differently and thus I did it better. And hopefully it's not going to completely break when I actually try it out for the first time. Well, actually, it doesn't work. Um, that's slightly embarrassing. And after some hard but fun bug fixing, it actually does work now. So, boop. It's kind of slow, but boop, boop. And I can also shoot it upwards. It's not coming back, is it? And yo, I did some more coding, and now it works. And it's pretty cool. So when you shoot it upwards, it shoots upwards, but then what goes sideways or up or any other way, I think must come down. So after flying forward for a short period of time, it drops down to the ground and creates a happy little fire. I mean, that's really just about it. It is going to be a pretty interesting attack. Due to the limited up range, you can't attack above you very efficiently unless you do that, of course. And yeah, the weird edge thing does happen, but I'm not fixing it. It's not that important. Besides, it doesn't really matter gameplay-wise anyway. So, enemies that are hit will get hit. Enemies that are hit on the down phase will get hit. And then enemies that walk over the fire will get hit. It makes sense because fire burns. Okay, speaking of enemies, how about we get around to that, huh? Again, I'm probably going to stress this a lot more during the series, but this is a small Metroidvania. A small one. So that means that I pretty much have all the content, I guess, planned out pretty well. Like, there's only really going to be 2 areas. I'm not going to add too many enemies. And just scope creep prevention. I learned my lesson last time I tried making a Metroidvania. On Scratch. But yeah, that backfired. So, anyway, enemies. I only have 3 enemies doodled out so far. One of them is, like, actually, should I spoil this? Whatever, you'll see it soon anyway. There are 3 enemies. One of them's like a bush that goes crazy with attacking. The other one is a, like, anteater with antlers that shoots poisonous berries at you. And then there's also a weird small mouse with a skull helmet and spikes. I'm sorry, okay? I don't know what to call these things. They don't have names, and it's just really, really bad, and it makes me want to spam the 2 arrow keys that make me do this weird thing with my OC child. Okay, whatever. Here comes our mandatory drawing time lapse of the episode. So, just another time lapse. I'm also going to talk about some of the, I guess, lore of this world. So, basically, the whole premise is you have a bunch of ecosystems, but those ecosystems are pretty small, and connecting all of them is a long, winding road called, for lack of a better word, the Winding Road. It's very desolate, it's very boring. So, basically, without going into too much detail about the road itself, the Plague Doctors are a guild that travels said road and goes to said ecosystems along said road, and if they find miasma, which is basically in the folklore about Plague Doctors and such, the very embodiment of sickness, or a green mist, which is kind of like the green coloring that you see in the enemy's eyes. Hint, hint. Um, and they try to cure everything. They try to expunge it. So, your attacks will mainly actually just be curing. The lantern shot is kind of supposed to be a purging fire, and also, once we actually get the whole combat system thing going, it'll be a bit more cure-y. Enjoy the rest of the time lapse. It's not much left. So before we continue, I finished the drawing time lapse, and now I started implementing the enemies into Unity. However, there is one complication. I don't want the player to be able to collide with the enemies. You see, like in last episode, I decided that I was going to work together with the box collider. Yeah, that's still happening, but I don't want the player to be able to collide with the enemies, but the enemies need the box collider to be turned on in order to collide with the ground. So I'll be back once I finish my small amount of research, or my large amount of research, or my huge amount of research on this topic. After a remarkably, and I do mean remarkably small amount of research, I found out that there is a small label, physics.ignore collision, where you can just be like, oh yeah, collider 1, collider 2, you guys can ignore each other, or one of them can ignore the other, or something. Yeah, I get to have enemies that cannot be touched by the player, but then can be touched by ground. Or is the ground touching them, or are they touching the ground? Let's just move on. So, first of all, I already imported the assets into Unity, and currently I'm working on the first enemy, which is this guy, who can extend his, or her, or their, or gender spikes at you. Right now they're just sitting there and playing the idle animation, and I might scale them down a little bit, but that's fine. The first thing I actually had to do was figure out how to not have them collide with each other, which I didn't actually use the function that I showed you guys. I think I used a slightly different one, but it still had the same effect, so it worked, and that is extremely, extremely good. I've also decided that I'm not going to follow Pandemonium's enemy tutorial because I'm better than him. Okay, all jokes aside, his tutorials are epic. If you want to make a platformer in Unity, go check that out because it's cool. Alright, so hold up just a second. Since this is the first time that I'm really going off, coding something, and completely winging it, and not, I guess, staying close to the predefined rule set of the tutorials, I think that it's time for episode 1 of... I'm sure this is going to go perfectly fine. So first of all, we have Unity, and Unity is cool. And we are in the enemy behavior 1 script, and it is fun. So, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to declare a variable. I'm going to call it lifetime, or state lifetime. And basically, every single time that variable swaps, or every time that variable reaches 0, the enemy is going to switch states. So it's going to be lasting a certain amount of seconds. It's a timer variable. It decreases by time.delta time, which is the difference in seconds between this frame and the last frame. And once it reaches 0, it changes from idle to run, or run to idle. and that is going to be a thing. So I'm going to first try to implement that, and also flipping of the sprite and all that fun stuff. See you in a bit. Okay, so I may have gotten a little bit carried away with the coding because coding is actually fun. So, I did end up adding most of the more important things now. So, first of all, delta time mod so that none of the um, time.delta time stuff messes up. So basically, when state lifetime is decreased down past 0, moving equals not moving, which basically means moving inverts itself. If it's true, becomes false, false becomes true. Y velocity decreases if it's falling. If it's not falling, then it just resets to -1 so that we can have a nice stick to the floor and no gap. If it's not grounded, though, if it's walked off the edge of a cliff, then it sets moving to false and state lifetime to 2. So it just falls, then it'll stay immobile for 2 seconds, and then just start again. I haven't actually added attacking script, but then when it's moving, have all the flipping code and VX and stuff, and then, yeah. Basically, that's that for now. But, I still have to add the attacking code, don't I? So, see you in a bit. So, we now basically have a working enemy AI that cannot damage us, but it'll move around on its own. It pauses sometimes. Then when it feels threatened, while it's not falling through the air, it tries to stab us with porcupine spike flavored things. The only problem is that I'm taking a bath in these porcupine spike flavored things, and they aren't causing damage to my health. We're not going to fix that today because I'm not adding health today. But I am going to add the weird attack hitbox thing. And we're back, and I've actually added the bounce mechanics, so the whole Fastfall Bounce thing. First of all, it does replenish your double jump, which is useful, and it doesn't replenish your soar yet, but it will soon. But you see that we can just continuously bounce on this small little boy, and it can't do anything about it. I also have the actual collider for the attack working. There's only one thing to fix now, which is if you're on the ground, you can just tap the down arrow and get a boost instantly, which I will fix right now. And now we have everything implemented pretty well. So the down arrow on the ground, it's not causing me to jump up anymore like that. It still refills your double jump, but now it also refills your soar. I don't think I'm gonna code the rest of the enemies yet. I'm gonna wait until I have damaging and health and all that stuff set up, because right now enemy can't damage us, but we can't damage it either, so it's not our friends, but just saying, we can take a bath in its spikes. Anyway, yeah, that's what I've coded. So yeah, we got quite a few stuff done today. I'd call it pretty successful. We didn't get to the rest of the enemies. We didn't get to most of the more exciting things. That's because I think I'm going to do a lot next episode. I'm going to finish up the enemies, of course. I'm going to get health and damage up and running. I'm going to do plenty of other things that are important for games, even possibly some level art, so that we aren't trapped in the void of darkness and blue and black squares and shapes anymore. With all that said, this has been a pretty good devlog. I did start an ARG on Scratch. It's pretty new, and you can join in the first voting poll project thingy. I'm not going to divulge too many secrets, but there's a link in the description. Other than that, though, take care, everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, so before I forget, I actually found out that the person who made the character Rosemary, the plague doctor, does have a YouTube channel. So it should be appearing on screen right about now. They only have about one video. I say about one when I mean literally one. It's about geckos eating, but it's really cute and you should go check it out. Yeah, bye.